Hello guys and welcome to another exciting tutorial of 3ds Max. It's your host AJ, and in the last video we discussed about lights, the behavior of lights, how we can manipulate our lights, and some cool stuff like attenuation and indirect illumination, also just the basic part. So if you're missing my tutorials, just go watch them out, subscribe me, and just gives me thumbs up on every video. But right now, getting back to today's tutorial, today we'll be talking about rendering. So first of all, what is rendering? So basically rendering is the calculation of your scene, all the lights, all the materials, effects, your environment, your exposure, their behavior, all the things will be combined together and the final imaging will be given to you. So it's a really cool stuff, and we'll be just talking about the basics, pretty basic. We're just gonna initialize it, and we may not render anything today because rendering will be done after we learn about some materials also. So to open your rendering dialog, you can just go over your rendering drop down right there, or just click the render setup button right there, or just press F10. So there's the render setup dialog. So in your common tab right there, you have some common parameters. First is time output. So basically the time output is the place where you tell computer that which are the frames you want to render. So right now it's set on single, so in single it's just gonna render the current frame, like for instance it's the frame number 0, or you can just render frame number 10 or anything. In active segment it's just gonna render the whole timeline, and it will give you an animation. And in range, you can just define a range, like for instance I want to render from 25 to 50 so all the frames will be rendered from 25 to 50. So you can just play with these settings always. And in frames, so basically frames provide you a lot of flexibility. You can just specify particular frames and also can define a range to render, like we have right now 1, 3, 5 to 12. So to tell a particular frame, just add a number and just add a comma after it. To specify a range, just add a dash between two numbers. So computer is gonna render now frame number 3, frame number 1, frame number 3, frame number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So you can just choose any one of the settings, whichever you want. Now, area to render. So you have to tell computer that what is the area you want to render. You can just select crop or different things just to check out what is the region you want to render. Like right now it's set on view, so my complete viewport will be rendered in view settings. Getting down to output size, so in output size you have to specify the output resolution of your result. Like for instance right now it's set on 640 to 480. So this is the resolution. You can always change them. In custom you can just specify any value you want, and there's the aspect ratio right there. So you can use the aspect ratio to get some kind of a desired result, obviously. Like for instance I'm just gonna enter 2 as my aspect ratio. I'm just gonna lock it. So while I'm locking it, it won't get changed. I can just change any one of these values, and my aspect ratio, image aspect ratio, won't get changed. Another thing is interesting, like that we have some presets aspect ratios available. Like for instance we have the Vista Vision, so this is gonna give me a 1.5 aspect ratio, or I can just use the HDTV aspect ratio, and then I can work according to it. So it's up to you what's the output size you want. Then getting down here, so we have the options. So we have to tell computer that what kind of things we want to render in a scene. Like for instance atmospheric. So yes, we want to render atmospheric things, so you can just tick it on, even though it's on already. You can even tick on the effects if you want to render effects. Displacement mapping, we'll be discussing displacement mapping in material part. You can even check a video color check, so it's just gonna check the video color to the threshold value. You can even render to field. So in render to field, it's just gonna first render one pair of alternate lines, and then other pair of alternate lines. It's just gonna combine them to create a desired result. Then going over the render hidden geometry. So if you're having any hidden geometry, it's gonna render all of them. So it helps sometimes if you want to. Area light, shadows as points. So in this, if we're gonna take it on, so all the lights will be considered as a point light. In the last tutorial we discussed that we can change the shape of our lights, providing it different kind of shapes like cylinder or a disc or a rectangular. So if you're gonna take it on, obviously your rendering time will be saved, but you have to manipulate, but your lights will be manipulated by software. Force two-sided, so it's really important that you take it on while you're rendering something like very complex structure with many faces, because 3ds Max sometimes just renders the front face and never renders the back face. So if you're showing back face in your camera, it won't get rendered. So you have to take on the force two-sided. And super black, frankly speaking, I don't know what is that, so I'm just not gonna tell you anything about it. Getting on advanced lighting. So use advanced lighting, and we have compute advanced lighting when required. So basically we can use the advanced lighting settings right there, like we have light tracer, so we can always use them for creating indirect illumination and other complicated light effects in our scene. So you can just take it on to use advanced lighting, or you can just take this on for getting for using the advanced lighting when only it's required. So I never feel comfortable using this, so I'm just gonna take it off. Then getting to render output size. So here you can specify where you want to save your file. So just click it. You can decide the format you want to. You can just name your file and just click the save button. So whenever you're gonna render it, it will be saved in to that location with that name. In email notifications, your any work progress, your job will be sent an email, and I frankly don't use this thing. I haven't used it, so I can't tell anything about it. Then the major thing is assigning a renderer. So that's the major part we have to come upon. So what is a renderer? Basically, renderer is a third-party plugin which combines with 3ds Max and renders your scene. Each renderer is a different software with different algorithms and different way of rendering your scene, and it will be really fun learning about them. So to change your renderer, you can just click this button, choose render, and there you have a list of render. We'll be talking about default scanline and mandatory rendering in the starting, just to learn the basic of renders. Then hopefully we'll get on VRAY also, but we'll be started with mandatory rendering right there. Then getting down here, this is another thing I want to tell you, is the active shade. So when you're turning on active shade, you're just gonna see that your render button right there changes to active shade button. So in active shade, none of your effects, your environment won't be rendered, just your lighting and your materials will be rendered. So it saves a lot of time if you just want to experiment how your material looks, how your lights look. So you can just use active shade for creating that effect. But if you want to render the complete scene, just click on this button. So that was a pretty big, and one more thing, you can just render your production from there. So that was a pretty basic about rendering. And in next video we'll be talking about materials, behavior of materials, how we can just apply material to our object, and hopefully we'll be rendering something right there also. So thanks for watching. I know I was pretty nervous about this tutorial, so my English is not that good, I obviously know that, and don't forget to hit the like button. I'm really working hard on these tutorials. Subscribe me, share my videos, please do that, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Goodbye.